What do you say to a parent who's grieving? This has been heavy on my mind. Recently, I've shared with you here on my channel that I lost my own child about 11 years ago now. And thinking back on this topic, really contemplating recently how people really showed up for me and what was really helpful and what was kind of harmful and difficult during that time. And I know that there's a lot of you out there who either are dealing with the loss of a child yourself or you know someone who is. And maybe you're wondering how best you can show up for them and how best you can help them through their time. So I just jotted down some things that I thought might be helpful. I do have my notes, so I will kind of look down at those and make sure that I cover everything. Part of this conversation was inspired, and I really want to give credit to Jefferson Fisher. And I saw a video that he did recently that he talked about. His title was more general, and it was just about, what is the best approach for people who are grieving. And I loved everything that he covered. I'm going to link his video in the description of this video. But I really wanted to touch on grieving parents because I feel like there's a little bit of a different approach that we may need to take with parents when they're grieving. Now, I also want to make the disclaimer and just let you all know that before I experienced the loss of a child myself, I didn't know how to deal with parents who were grieving. I didn't know what to say, and I made a lot of these mistakes myself. So I'm not coming here to really shame people or put people on blast. I'm not whatsoever. Because I made a lot of these mistakes myself. But since I've experienced the loss of a child myself, I really want to kind of maybe give some insight, some direction on this. So let's look at the first thing that was really kind of hurtful for me was having people kind of compare their loss to mine. And some of this probably comes from wanting to sort of say, hey, I've been where you're at. I've experienced what you've experienced. But I actually had someone compare the loss of their cat with the loss of my child. That was not helpful. That was not something that helped me in the moment whatsoever. The best thing that you can do in these situations, rather than comparing, is, just sit with the person. I had people who came to my home and they just sat with me and they just listened to me and they cried with me and they hugged me. And they didn't compare their loss with mine. They didn't say, I've been where you're at. I know how you feel. Because if you haven't lost a child, you do not know how it feels. You can say, I'm here for you. I want to help you in any way I can. But you cannot say, I know how you feel, unless you've actually been through that event. So, just be there for people. Don't try to use your experience to kind of let someone know that, you're understanding, because sometimes it diminishes and it actually is hurtful and harmful. The second don't make statements like they're in a better place or God needed them more than you did, or, this happened for a reason. What we're trying to do when we say things like that, the Blue Jays are yelling at me right now. What we're trying to do is we're trying to find some sort of a positive spin on a really negative situation. There's no spin that you can put on this that makes it make sense, because sometimes life is just not fair. Sometimes things happen And it's just not fair. And there's no positives that can be found in any of this. You know, when I lost my son, there was no rhyme, no reason. There was nothing positive about that situation. And again, you know, it's coming from a place of people trying to make another person, a parent, feel better about the situation. But there's no feeling better in that moment. What people really need is they just need you to say, I know this is devastating and this is not fair, what happened to you, what happened to your family. Um, you know, don't try to justify it or find a silver lining or put it on God, because many of us are, you know, sometimes struggling with our higher powers and our God after, you know, we lose a loved one. So, you know, don't make statements about them being in a better place. That's not what we need to hear when we've lost a child. The next thing is, don't avoid people who have lost someone because of your own discomfort. And I know, again, when I started this conversation with you, I let you know I did the same thing. I would see somebody and I wouldn't know what to say, and I felt awkward and I felt bad, and I would dodge them. And that happened to me right after my son passed away. In the weeks that followed, like a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks after he had passed, I was at the local grocery store and I had to pick up a few things. My husband and I were there, and you know, I saw someone in the aisle that was with me, you know, in the same aisle, and this was a friend of mine, not a super good friend, but an acquaintance, a person who I knew, and they saw me and we made eye contact, and they literally like turned their cart around and like ran, you know, and they may have actually even ran out of the store because I didn't see them again. But you know, I understand. I understand the discomfort. We, grieving parents, we understand your discomfort. But when you turn around and you run away from us and you avoid us, that hurts very deeply. And it makes us feel invisible, and it makes us feel uncared about and uncared for. So in those situations, if you see someone who is grieving and is a grieving parent, just let them know, like, I don't know what to say to you right now. I am so sorry for what you're going through. And it's just beyond my ability to even know what to say in the moment. And that is something we can understand, because we as parents have probably been there with other people. So we do understand that. So just come at it from a place of honesty, and even saying, I almost like wanted to run away, but I needed to let you know I'm so sorry. And I don't know what else to say. And that's enough. That is enough in and of itself. I see this on Facebook all the time, and Jefferson Fisher also mentions this in his video. You know, saying to people, let me know if there's something I can do for you. You know, reach out if there's something that you need. When someone loses a child, they have no idea what they need. They are so lost and so heartbroken that they have no clue what they need. The last thing they're going to do is reach out to you and say, hey, can you help me? Because they don't even know what kind of help they need. I'll tell you some of the things that people did for me that were priceless. I have a really good friend. Her name is Mary. And she dropped off at my house in the days after my son Doug died. She dropped off this big box. It was just this nondescript cardboard box, and it was on the steps at our house, and it had paper towels, it had paper plates, it had Kleenex, It had a can of coffee and some creamer, the creamer that I like. She knows what I like. It had, garbage bags. It had all these paper products, paper towels, napkins, things that she knew I would need in the coming days with all these people coming in and out of the house and food, being delivered, which was so wonderful. People set up meal trains. They took turns bringing food over. Um, you know, Somebody just had a huge sub delivered from Subway, and anonymously did it, you know. These were the things that were really helpful. I never asked any of these people to do any of these things for me. They just did them. Someone comes over and mows your grass for you. Someone brings your garbage cans up for you. Someone, picks up your dry cleaning or your groceries from Walmart. These are the things that people need. These are the things that parents need. It was literally weeks and months before I feel like I was even reconnected with the earth after my son died. I had a hard time brushing my teeth and showering every day, and, you know, God forbid, going out to some sort of a commitment or something. It was really, really, really a hard, challenging time. So don't ask people what they need, and you ask them what they need. They might not be able to tell you, but don't ask them to ask you or tell you what they need. Take it upon yourself to say, I'm going to go over and cut their grass. I'm going to go over and get their mail and bring it up to the house. I'm going to deliver a box of paper products because I know they're going to have a lot of people in and out of their home. I do that for people all the time now. Thank you, Mary, for giving me that idea. I never would have thought of that, but that was one of the most helpful things for me. And 11 years later, I'm still thinking about it and thankful for it. So those are the type of things that we need. We need people to surround us and say, don't you worry about a thing. I got you. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take care of that. Take control of the situation and help people get through, one of the toughest times that they're going to ever go through. That is what we need. So those acts of kindness that we don't have to ask for and we don't have to reach out for, those are the most memorable and those are the most meaningful. The last thing I want to mention happened to me within a couple of days after my son died. And I had someone come over to bring food. This was a kind of an acquaintance, not a really great friend, but someone that knew me and knew, of course, that my son had died. And she came over and she brought a pound of lunch meat and a pound of cheese and a pack of buns, which we were really grateful for. Any sort of help in feeding us and the troops that came in to help me and my husband navigate this. And in the process of having brought that over, she came into my house. She was not in my house more than 5 minutes. And she asked me what happened to my son. And I mentioned in an earlier video, which I will link to this video, I mentioned that there had been a horrible incident that happened with my son. And to this day, I don't go into a lot of details about that. But within a couple of days of his death and 5 minutes of entering my home, this woman asked me this question. And luckily, I had enough strength in me to say, that's not any of your business. And I don't want to talk about that right now. Don't ask people for details about their losses. If they want to tell you, they will tell you. But don't ask them, especially early on in the process. This was a couple of days after my son died. like I said, even to this day, I don't openly talk about my son's death in that way. I choose to remember him alive and who he was as a person, which was a wonderful, wonderful young man. Um, but, you know, that's not any of your business. It's not any of your concern. It's not any of my concern. My concern when I come to somebody with an offering, and hopefully yours is to bring comfort to them, not to gather details because you're curious, you're nosy, you're concerned, whatever the emotion is. It's not appropriate to ask somebody how they lost their child. If they want to share, they will share it with you. And if you're close enough to the family and to the situation, you'll already know what that reasoning is. So in closing, my name is Lois. This channel is Ponderings of the Pre-Retired. Our goal in this channel is to really explore and learn and become the best that we can possibly be, especially as we are entering our retirement years, and making these years the best that they can be, and making ourselves the best that we can be in preparation for a healthy and long and enjoyable retirement. I hope this topic has been helpful for you. I hope that it gives you some guidance firsthand from somebody who's experienced child loss on how best to navigate that with people that you know, and how best to help those who have experienced the loss of a child. I appreciate you being here. I would love for you to give me a thumbs up. That really lets me know that I'm doing something well worth it, and that it kind of gives me some validation that this is benefiting people. You know, talking to this camera and sharing so vulnerably my own experiences and strength and hope with you. You know, it really helps when people give me a thumbs up or give me a comment. You know, even if it's something you don't agree with, that's fine. You can put your information out there and share, and I can learn from you too. And hopefully subscribe so that you don't miss these episodes, because all of these episodes are really going to be focusing on not just financial well-being in retirement, which we hear a lot about, but our physical health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. Thank you so much for being with me today. Happy Labor Day to all of my U.S. friends and family. And for all others, I hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Thanks, and take care.